involves the re-roofing of 3300 Bridger Trail. We are currently withholding the $110,000 we set aside to do that roofing job while we wait for the vendor to satisfy the city's regulatory requirements. It failed to pass inspection. It appears that the roofer did not arrange for what's called a mid-roof inspection, which is supposed to be done before the EPDM goes down. We were assured by the contractor before the fact, because this was a known issue, and we had been talking to the city. And while Barney's talked to them, I've talked to the chief inspector, I've talked to his assistant, the one who did the actual inspection. I've talked about the past. The city of Boulder has instituted a new policy about a year ago in which I think what they're really doing is enforcing regulations that have been in place for 30 years, but which individual building inspectors working for the city have been wink, wink, nod, nod, letting pass. Well, they're not winking and nodding anymore. And apparently the city did due diligence in informing all of the people working in the area that this was a change in the way that they were going to be applying the regulations. This contractor was warned that he needed to be working with that inspector. We were assured by this vendor that he was going to check with them. I talked to that inspector, and he told this guy what to do, and he didn't do it. And we may end up having, I don't know what their recourse is, but it's very clear. I've talked to our lawyer, and I've talked to the city inspector about this, and a couple of property managers who've dealt with things like this. And our move is to simply hold our money and dump it back in his lap. And let me just say that it's not, and this is outrageous, but no point in perfuming the pig. Another building which was done longest ago, we've done 4 roofs. 2 of them have not been approved for final inspection. One of them was the first roof we did. 2 of them passed, though they were in the middle, using the same technology. So, but let me tell you, if you're having fantasies that, so now we've got the city and we can come back and lean on them, no, we don't. In fact, the city's got us. And so we're going to have to lean on this vendor, who did get paid already for the first roof, to fix not only this roof, but the other roof. And I'll keep you apprised as soon as we know what's happening.
Okay, question.
Which building?
It's 3350.
3300 and 3345 did not pass.
If the inspectors know that they need to follow the rules, why they did not do it? Okay.
It doesn't.
No, they tried to. Well, it does matter actually.
Well, why did
it doesn't matter? Yeah.
Who are you asking the question?
You.
The roofer or
No,
the
inspector.
The inspector actually is not. The inspector doesn't have any legal exposure here, as far as I can tell. The job of the inspector is to be called. This is how it works in construction. There are stages where you have to bring the city in after they've approved a project. There are things that have to be done along the way. And the city waits for you to call them, you the contractor, and bring them in to do these mid-project inspections to make sure that the end product is going to satisfy city regulations. In this case, these are our what do they call it? The R values of the.
There's an R value and a fire rating.
Right. And
they have to pass
the fire rating seems to be fine. It's the R value that's not where it should be. It's supposed to be R38, somewhere around R24.
R38 ceiling to roof and R20 roof.
Yeah. So all of the last Barney and I knew was that the vendor was working with an engineer and with the city to try to solve the problem, and we're withholding the money until they solve it. And we may have to take the money and pay another roofer to go in and fix it. I don't know what's going to happen.
Well, we could possibly blow into ceilings. We're going to let an engineer tell us.
We are actually just. I stepped back from that.
Let an engineer tell us.
The chief inspector said, "This is your vendor's problem."
Right.
And let them solve it, and that's where I'm leaving it for the time.
But the roofs should have been done properly. They should hold. They should not.
The roofs
be,
are
they
all-
should-
The
They're
roofs
all
are
leaked. You
they're
have-
not
okay.
leaking, this is
Sure.
not an issue about leaking.
right. So
that-
we shouldn't have to worry about that.
No.
All the roofs that were done have installed EPDM and are watertight. And we've had a couple of, not major rain events, but we've had rain events with no leaks anywhere.
So my second question is, if these two roofs have not passed inspection, what about the other roofs we're gonna have to do? Is gonna be a change on them or what?
Well,
It has to, right?
She's
No,
talking
no,
about
that-
the future.
the
The
other
future roofs.
well, the
remaining
roofs in the
five.
future, I
So you
can,
want turning fast.
well, what we're gonna do is make
I
sure
have it
that,
passed right into the
I find it highly unlikely that we'll use this vendor again.
So
And we
my-
have other vendors that I found attractive that were offering us good numbers and that we just didn't have time to vet completely, and we're going to talk to them.
And we felt okay about Bradley Brothers, because they've been doing our roofs for a
Right.
long time.
They did,
And other big roofs.
you know, so, I
I
mean,
think they
look,
were in trouble in Boulder, is my opinion. They just have not done a lot of roofs in Boulder, and Boulder's a different world, and
Yeah.
they.
this is definitely just not my problem.
Yeah.
This is their problem.
Can I ask you a
Yeah.
question about something else? Let's see. Have we heard anything about the water main?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, that's going back to my report, so.
Please, I'm done.
Okay, so we gave Jesse Witt a $3,000 retainer. I think he's eaten maybe 1,000 of it. I did email you guys the court decision that he was waiting for that he feels is in our favor. But that where we are now is Magna Carta has not given a formal response to his last salvo that the most recent Colorado court ruling is in the HOA's favor.
Jason, I got a question.
Mhm.
I assume you pay contractors and suppliers by check. Do you require, every time you do that, a mechanic lien waiver on that check? You know what that is?
Well,
He signs it, and by so doing, he relinquishes all future claim against you and can't come back and sue you and claim that you still owe me money. That's a standard practice in construction. A mechanic lien waiver, if you don't do it, I think you ought to check with your attorney and find out if you can incorporate that in your system. Because there's nothing worse than having some clown file a lien waiver charge or unsatisfied lien in court. He can really mess you up.
I'll research that.
Check
Good
on
point.
the mechanic lien
Mostly
waiver.
we've dealt with this, with the stipulations about amounts in the contract, but why not have this too?
Yeah, well, if you're paying a series of checks, the last one is where the zinger is. And he accepts that as full and total payment.
Mechanic
No
lien waiver.
recourse against you. Otherwise, he can bring a charge later that he has an unsatisfied lien.
Okay. I'll research that.
And that's problematic when they do.
Just over for the notes, when was the water main break that we pursued Magna Carta? Do you remember what time frame?
The
so I
water
have it-
main break itself was February 29th.
February? Okay, I just have to differentiate between the one we just had and the one.
The incident itself was February 29th.
Thank you.
So we just finished a total replumb of 3050 East, and the cool thing about that was we did use
Show and tell.
a hot water tank that was booked. It was basically it was an Everhot. It was a new version of an Everhot that was never plumbed correctly. So we used existing assets to get a new hot water system at 3050. But as I showed earlier, if you weren't here, this was the water feed to the boiler, and it delayed the whole job a day. And what it is even though we save money using existing assets, manipulating boilers and piping that is 40 years old is always a can of worms. And I think the plumber ate a lot on this job. And I just want to warn us, unless we're going to replace the entire system, the hybrid solutions are it was a nasty job, and they took a bath on it.
Will they come back to do it again?
I don't think they'll ever do this again, but this was a unique situation where we had an Everhot in place that wasn't plumbed correctly.
Okay.
So it was sitting there as a storage tank, and they replumbed it correctly. but they had an interface with a 40-year-old boiler, and it was not. It was
Oh,
the
yeah.
saddest damn sight you ever saw.
I just wanna make sure that we don't lose their knowledge, since, but it sounds like it's unique anyway, so.
And that
They
was
sure know the
50.
boilers well, so they have a lot of knowledge. They've been here for 10 years. So.
Oh, someone's-
But I don't know, you live there, anyone else here from 3050? It's been running for about 72 hours. I haven't had any calls, so
Yeah, it is better. It's going to get water quickly.
cool.
And it's not scalding or
And that's kind of where we were right at the end, was
It's absolutely blistering.
that was blister or
Friday night.
nothing, so we were like walking the fine line there, getting, if you know what I'm talking about. You like doing that, you like running the water hot, right?
I'm keeping the most
Oh,
of it
Jesus.
hot.
So I don't know, anything
Gets
else
my
on my
dishes
list?
nice and clean.
The Swink family and Moses rebuilt the entire dumpster shed at 3300 East. It's just
Looking good.
prettiest damn sight you ever saw. So I do have a couple
you
of
say the
stumps
Swink?
around Swink family.
Oh.
Yeah. I do have a couple of
Who is
stumps
that?
around the property, and we'll take them out. We have one stump that was just taken down in front of 3240 Iris. It's an extremely visible tree, so if we carved it, you would have a carving on the Iris Avenue. But you probably want to decide,
We don't
next
have the
3
money
months.
to do
No,
that
we
kind
Well,
of
right
thing.
now
Okay,
it's
well,
ugly.
just so you understand, when you say you don't have the money to do the carving, then you have to spend the money to dig the stump.
Did you hear back from him on what we could do to treat now to possibly
He,
carve
he
later?
said don't worry about it. Lou Popoff said you're okay for 6 months of doing nothing.
Okay, 6 months.
Yeah.
What about 12?
And then it
Next
starts-
budget
next
year.
budget.
Well, I already have people complaining about what the stump is.
Sure, but if we can say it's
Why
budgeted
don't
for
in the same way
the next
you
year.
just cut it down?
If the
Imagine
board
we
wants to cut it down, then
give
you guys
less
should decide,
area
and we'll
to
just
carve.
cut it
But
and
isn't
grind
that a
it.
double charge?
Best.
I mean, he cut it that far, and I
Code
was
No,
gonna cut it
no,
that
no.
far.
No, it's not a double charge.
You
He-
don't have to
he-
pay him
That's
again
what
Yeah.
he had
make
asked.
it shorter?
Yeah, I don't know.
We saved money leaving
Oh, I
it.
didn't see one.
He works by the foot. Yeah, and
Who's that?
but the stump grinding would have been extra no matter what. Blue River, but we could. Yeah.
The one that lives here?
Yeah.
The one that parks his
Leave
big
it that
trucks
high,
around?
and we put
He
a
hasn't been
plant on
parking
top
it.
of it.
Okay.
He moved his trucks. They're
He
out
should
by
be,
the house.
work very low to remove the stumps.
You know what? I don't think we're gonna get a little bit from anyone. I think he gives us great prices, but
Why don't
you're
you just
welcome
cut
to.
it down and we put a plant on it?
You guys vote and decide.
We
So-
like
Well, why do we
flowers.
have to vote on
You know,
that?
Right.
We don't have the money
Well,
to
but
carve
homeowners,
a totem pole.
homeowners might wanna have a say.
I do
I
have
would-
some owners that want it carved.
This is,
It's a
well,
this
let
is
'em
one
pay
that should
for
be asked. We should be asked.
And of all the trees, this is the one on Iris. So if you did a carving, this would not be hidden in the community. People would see it. A lot of people would see it.
I have a question. Why do we wanna have a tree carved? I mean, don't we have other things to spend money on?
I
Yes.
don't have a
And let me-
position on it, but I will tell you that I've got a balance of
Okay, I
owners
vote
that
no
want
on
it
that one.
and owners that don't want it. And
Well,
understand,
It comes
it's
down
not,
to
it's
money,
not,
Barney.
taking the tree out and grinding the stump is a cost
But
too.
it's okay. I can't even get a tree behind our building back there for shade that
You're entitled
costs
to your
$50.
opinion, but I hope you understand other people have other opinions.
Well,
Yeah, I have my
It's
own
not the
opinion, though.
Angie community, it's the
Well,
Remington
it
Post
is.
community.
What's the
I like it
comparative
too.
cost?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, a stump,
Afterwards.
a stump grind is gonna be about 400, and a tree carving is gonna be 1,000. So it's a $600 difference.
Can we get like a free estimate and a sketch like you
I
said?
did,
does
I already have
Oh,
sketches.
yeah.
Including for the bigger
Yeah,
stuff?
we had,
I didn't
we
see
had
a
that
larger
last
one.
year. We just
Um,
didn't have
see,
it
The
right
two
sketches and the,
Can we
and
revisit the carving of the stumps?
next year.
I'm sorry,
yeah,
but
revisit it.
Yeah.
these are important to many people.
Just
but-
put it out for 3
But, you know,
months.
who's gonna manage this place next year?
I
And
agree.
a budget, going into it might be useful too.
Next.
Alright, let's roll
I don't
I'm gonna
wanna
do nothing.
be too
No, wait, just a
sarcastic.
minute, I have something,
Jesus.
wait. I'm gonna put you on the spot,
Yeah.
Barney.
You never put me on the spot.
Tonight I will. When those
Discussion
problems
of-
under my unit are gonna be finished.
We need compromise.
Well, you have cornered sandwich yourself. What did he tell you?
We
He was
did,
waiting for
that's
the
true.
parts.
Okay.
The parts have not arrived yet.
I think we've cannibalized the parts for 3050.
Well,
They're the
yeah.
Velo motors, and
This is my second winter with that thing in my unit.
I would say definitely before the end of the year.
For what?
We need velo motors everywhere, but now we're getting noises on both sides of 33